Greetings and welcome to another Warhammer 40,000 Kill Team video. Today I'm going over tournament reports for the Savage Hammer Kill Team tournament I went to earlier in January, as well as the recent Warhammer World tournament that just went by. So basically before and after LVO. But before we get into things, please remember to like and subscribe as well as comment. Let me know what you thought of today's video on battle reports, well, tournament reports. And if you want, I've got a Discord you can check out in the episode description below, as well as a Patreon if you want to give me some more support, as well as an affiliate link for Element Games if you ever want to check that out as well. But yeah, today I'm talking about these two tournaments because I was going to do a dedicated video for the Breachers with Savage Hammer, and then I was like, Warhammer World, but it's complicated. Like, there's a lot of tournaments I missed last year that I covered, well, that I played at that I didn't have time to cover. Like, I think one of the big ones was where I won King of the North in Manchester, I think for their first event at Element Games, or second, with my Void Dancer troop. So I don't want to be in that situation, because by the time I was free to do it, the tournament had been gone for 3 months. So I was like, yeah, kind of can't really talk about that now. So here's to catch up time. So I'm briefly going to go over the Savage Hammer tournament, which was in Bedford, and then I'll do the Warhammer World one. So for kill team selection for the Bedford one, originally I wasn't going to go because they weren't going to use the new TAC ops, and then they did. So then I went because it was a week before LVO, and I was like, I need practice. Originally it was going to be 2 days, and I was like, you know what, 6 rounds, this will be great practice. And then they split into a Saturday 4-day tournament and maybe a Sunday 3-day, and I was like, I'll just go on the Saturday. Have to bring my own terrain, so, but it's Bedford, so it was only like £8 on the train with my train card. So I went there. It was actually pretty neat. But the reason I was using Breachers was because I wanted to practice for LVO. I'd done like 1 or 2 practice games beforehand, maybe 1. And I was like, yeah, I really need to learn these guys. So this was all going in ham, but I just finished painting them. So I was like, let's go. Round 1, I was against the bye. Really tough. And then round 2, I was playing, now let's see. I was playing Legionary. Yes. So this mission was capture, I believe. And yeah, so we were playing capture on one of the quesadilla layouts. So it's interesting. Legionary are quite tough kill team for the Breachers on paper, and it was a very close game. Like, what happened was my Plasma and Melter managed to stay alive and just run up and like shoot people effectively. I played pretty cautious, and then turning point 3 and 4, I just pushed forward to get a win. I think it was like 16-13, so it was really close. It was just hard for him to shut me down, but also because I only have like 2 long range threats, and when I wasn't using the las volley, so I was just using the Plasma and Melter, so I only really had 1 long range threat to try and check his Plasma, his Heavy Bolter, and his Sorcerer. I mean, the funny thing is, he took a Corn Butcher, and then my Grenadier blitzed into him and rolled 2 crits, 2 hits, and I was like, oh, you're gonna live. Failed both his saves and just died, and then I clipped the Plasma down, and eventually the Plasma died. And I maxed my faction TAC op 2 because I got near his kill zone edge, which was on the right hand side. But that was a tough game. Tough but fun. Then in round 2, I was against Wormblade. So this was Seize. So just, control objectives by being on them. The interesting thing here is, like, I was like, I'll take the las volley. And turning point 1, he actually could have got a shot with his grenade. No, well, he couldn't have gotten a shot because, well, so he put his grenade launcher in reserve and then put the barricade where he wanted to put his grenade launcher, dropped down his grenade launcher, but the barricade basically pushed him back. So he couldn't get a shot because he was trying to hit my engaged las volley down on the left-hand side, but he was obscured anyway. And then basically I played cautiously, and he kind of took the bait where he sent his Locust on the top side, charged on turning point 2 through my Endurant and my Hatch Cutter, who'd already got a hatch. But the important thing is that Hatch Cutter hit him for 5 damage, knocking down to 4 wounds, and then he charged again into my leader. So I was like, oh, you only have 4 wounds, right? And he's like, yep. And you only parry first, right? He's like, yep. So I attacked, got 3 hits. He parried first. I killed him, and he let me max Rob and Ransack because I was never, like, I take Rob and Ransack as a counter charge punish thing. And then effectively I max counteract, because the cool thing about counteract is I stayed off of the objectives. So I like breached and cleared, killed someone, and then breached and cleared, move on to the objective, to score, breach, and clear. And it was still a really close game. Like, there was a lot of crazy trades, but from turning point 2 and 3, I was just like, yeah, you know, this is probably a trade, but I'm just going to run into your face with shotguns, and Wormblade don't like that. So that's basically how I won that game. It was still quite tough, but I was able to force the right trades and abuse obscuring to negate his shooting. Then in round 4, yeah, because it was round 2, 3, 4, I was against Corsairs. Now, I was actually terrified here because I thought my opponent was going to use the Shade Runner to move dash and then, well, free dash again with the strat, and then move and dash and grenade me. And then I realized he put the grenade on the, what do you call it? The thingy, the Kernite Hunter, the melee guy. And I was like, I don't have to worry about that. So we were playing capture, and I just moved forward cautiously until I was just in a position to kill. And then basically turning point 2, he kind of put his leader, his Soul Weaver, the comms, and his Pistolier behind the central wall. And I was like, obviously I warned about what my Grenadier can do. So I was like, okay, first activation, I'm going to Blitz, Close Assault. So I retain a hit because it wasn't the first one to activate. And I'm within blue of your leader and the first one. So I'm re-rolling, and effectively I killed them all. And that kind of swung the game because then I could just push forward and delete everyone. The funny thing is, he charged his one of his Kernites into one of my breaches with brace, and then didn't die. And it was just like, wow, should have killed me, but okay. But it was actually really tense up until I got that. I was waiting for a point to kill. But the good thing he got on me, like turning point 1, my leader behind the barricade, I just passed him, thinking, oh, there's no need to move him up. And then I forgot about his bird. So his bird rolled a 5 because I wasn't activated and I was behind light cover. So it triggered on like a 3 up or 4 up. And then he switched me to engaged and just sniper deleted me. So I should have braced turning point 1. But that was good because it helped me for the future. But it was a really fun game. And in the end, I managed to win. I'll post a picture. They gave me lots of swag. Like, Savage Hammer are great. They do a lot of 40k events, and they've started doing Kill Team. I haven't gone to their previous events because they're like in hard to reach places. But the people who go there said they'll like pick people up from the station. I think the only issue with the next tournament is it's like in a school that's 50 minutes away from every station. So great for 40k players who can drive up and stuff, but not for me. But no, they gave me a trophy. I won army painter speed paints. They gave me I'll post up all the pictures. Like, they gave me loot. I got all this Kill Team into the dark stuff, art cards, a dial, even a certificate. It was really cool, really sweet. And like, these guys were great, really great guys. And I think if you're playing near that, you should definitely go there. Fun bunch of guys, and the events they run are really cool. You'll have fun at Savage Hammer. For the next event was Warhammer World. So I was actually really looking forward to this, but there's a few issues. So originally it was supposed to be a 4-round event. So I noticed about a month ago, I was like, okay, me and Charles were like, I need to book train tickets. I always double check the pack, right? And I was like, okay, it says 4 rounds. Scroll down to the schedule. It's a 3-round schedule. Scrolled up to the pack, 4 rounds. Scroll down 3. I was like, email GW. And they're like, oh, that looks like a mistake. It should be a 4-round event. We're selling it as a 4-round event. Even though the pack does say it's 3 rounds, it's probably an error. So I was like, I trust them, I buy my tickets. Then 2 days later, they were like, unfortunately, because it was only picked up a month before the event, they knew a lot of people had actually booked the trains, leave at 6 and start, like for a 6 o'clock finish. They were like, unfortunately, we have to do it 3-round event. And no matter where you sit on that, I think that's probably the best result. I mean, personally, I would have preferred 4 rounds, but like an optional 4th round, but that would have messed up the event. As for the greater good, I think that was the better move. They owned up to it. They were like, it was a big error. And they were like, if you want a refund, we'll give you a refund. The funny thing is they had like 2 refunds. So the event went on sale again and then immediately sold out because people were like, yes, 3 rounds. And then the other issue was the tack up cards. So I believe there was supposed to be like a massive reissue of the critical ops cards, and because some stores have received the new crit op cards again after the Christmas period, but it's been delayed as well. So they were like, I think they were probably going to do proxies or stuff, and then last minute they couldn't. And it's a shame because we had to use the old missions and maps. Because actually I was planning to bring my crew to this. I was going to bring my Fast Stalker crew. I had my barricades ready. I had my meat tokens. I was going to buy pepper army. So every opponent I'd go, playing crew, would you like a pepper army? I've got a pepper army. If you don't, if you're vegetarian or vegan, you can have this banana because I'll have more pepper army for myself. Totally planned for that. And they were like old missions and no tac ops the Tuesday before the event. And I was like, no. But the good thing was that is if people wanted refunds, normally Warhammer World events stop their refunds a week before the event. They were like, look, we understand this is not the event we wanted and what you probably don't want. So if you don't want to go, we'll refund you. So I know they've refunded a few people and they sold out again. So yeah, I decided to bring Breachers to this event because I was actually practicing with my crew. And then I was like, oh, I've actually had the most practice in the last 6 weeks with Breachers. So I'll just stick with Breachers and like not take the event seriously in terms of, I'm not going to hard practice the old missions because I was like, this is literally the last time I would be using them because I thought that would be the December tournament. And I spent all this time unlearning to focus on the crit ops because I have to memorize the 9 new layouts, the 9 new missions, new scouting options, all the stuff I can like plan out with that. So my mind just deletes stuff I don't need anymore. So we went to that, and round 1, I was up against Commandos. So the issue, we were playing, what were we playing? It was, I forgot the, see look, I've forgotten all the missions now. It's the mission where there's 3 objectives in the middle and 1 in each drop zone, and then you choose one, and each player chooses one. And if you capture it, you get a victory point and a command point. Let me just say, even though I like the old missions, and the crit op missions may have too much CP too much VP to score, they're way better. Like, I was going to save this to the end. New missions are way better than the old ones. The old ones punish you if you don't have a forward deploy or extra movements. The new missions are much better. So this mission, I was playing against Commandos, and I was like, oh, I forgot what this mission does. Pick the wrong drop zone, because there's the one thing is, we didn't realize that we were on Nakmund, and the containers went, the big oil silos went the right way around, because we noticed on the pitch after we'd picked sides and deployed, I was like, not during deployment, I was like, oh, no, these, so we orientated them the right way, and then I was like, yeah, I actually should have picked the other side. So this is an annoying error, but it's fine. And then I forgot you could free dash, which was fine. And then I forgot he got an extra command point on top of the victory point. And I was like, he's in a position to get 2 extra command points this turn. And yeah, I can't actually slow that down, because the plan was to make him waste his CP and then lock him into, just a scratchable game. But that failed. And then due to circumstances outside of my control, I think we finished turning point 2 with 15 minutes left. And I was like, we're getting a full game. We just rushed through it. And annoyingly, I missed my game drawing play. So like, if my plan was to eventually win by 1, but then because I was rushing, because I was like, I was more focused on getting a full game and then finishing like turning point 3, I made the wrong move of, instead of moving to the right-hand side where I'd put siege ground, I moved to the central objective where I should have moved to the right, because I would have won on primaries, and then that would have given me 2 points to tie, because effectively on the primary I scored 1-1-1-3, whereas my opponent scored 3-1-3-1, and only 2 tac ops. So I stopped his tac ops, but it like cost me the game. So it was fun, but frustrating at the same time. Then round 2, I was against a lovely guy named Sean and his legionary, and we were playing Master the Terminals. So he was all Nurgle. I was, once again, Breachers. And I think I went with Security again and Faction Tac Op 2, because it's like, Quesadilla deployment, I can get close to his board edge. Really weird game, because our shooting was really weird on both sides. So like the weirdest thing is my shotgun guy charged his heavy bolter after capping the point on turning point 2. And I was like, you can fight me or you can fall back and shoot me. I've already popped brace and I've moved, so you hit me for full damaged. 4 attacks, rolled 3 hits. I was like, okay, probably dead. Rolled 3 dice, 1 attack, and I was like, parry. I live on 1 wound, and then I live on 2 wounds, and he's like, oh, okay, I'll just fall back. Overwatch, got 2 hits with a crit, so I retained, and then I rolled a crit, so he stayed alive. Then next turning point, he dashed onto the point and just stood him. The other weird thing was my Axe-Jack charged into a Plasma who rolled no hit and just immediately killed him. And then the weirdest one, his Sorcerer charged into my Hatch Cutter with Brace, and I was like, you know, I've been charged by Sorcerers a lot, my Hatch Cutter's going to die. He rolled 1 hit, I rolled a crit and a hit. I rerolled because of my attack order my 2 dice because they were both freeze into 1 hit, and then closed the soul turned that into a hit. And with Rending, that turned me into 2 crits, 2 hits. And because I had Brutal, he did 3 damage to me, 2 damage to me on my sword, and I punched his sorcerer away. But I managed to actually win that by 5 points. But what I did is I had Faction Tack Up 1 on his objective 1, and I only managed to get 1 point for Faction Tack Up 2, and I max Central Control. So I managed to get 5 on the primary there, which is important. But it was just a weird game. Like, we both had really weird interactions with our dice. So, but he played well. It was just kind of like, yeah, dice are weird. And then in game 3, I was playing Consecration on Morok. And I actually like Morok, right? And I was against Crew. This Morok board was horrible. Like, I understand they wanted to use Morok, but I don't. I set up Morok so the objectives aren't elevated. And the issue is I had a drop zone with a big building in it basically blocking me out. So it was very tight. But my opponent played really aggressive with his Crew. But turning point 1, I managed to kill his Crew and take the lead on the primary. It was actually very close back and forth, but he went full meat. So I was able to stay alive. He didn't actually have the APL to cap points and stuff. And I was making good enough trades to either tie or slightly going ahead on the primary. And I was making sure to just score as much tack ops as I could. Because he had overrun, vantage, and then call the kill. I mean, balance the books. So I was like, oh, if I kill like 6 of your guys, you basically can't score balance the book. So I just went full aggro to shut down that. And because killing him would also stop overrun. And because I could just always contest vantage by just charging that big building. I mean, it was great for him with bound. But there was really like lots of back and forth trades. I think my Axe-Jack was like my MVP. He tanked so much stuff and killed so many crew. And then like what won it for me was just turning point 4. I only had my Melter left on 1 wound, switched him to engage on the left side, captured that point. He killed my Plasma, then my comms moved around, captured the midpoint, captured the bottom point, and then his old blood failed to kill my Endurant because I braced. So really tough game, but I won by 3 points with only 3 points on the tack ops. But really fun. I think, yeah, the only criticism was just, I think, because I'm a crew enjoyer as well, and I would have just gone, I find more trophies are better, because full meat is actually on paper good against breachers, but I find with that mission, it's like capture, you want more APL with trophies. So overall, like after round 1, I was like, man, it would have been a draw at best, but you know, it is what it is. So I was just playing for fun. I think I somehow finished 28th or 26th, something like that, out of 68. Not too bad. I mean, the weird thing because it was only 3 rounds, there was like 9 undefeated players, which was what I predicted. So the good thing, I came with Charles and Alex, and they did really well. They came 4th and 5th, or 5th and 6th. And like, I was really, like, Charles was really proud of, because, you know, I was like, he was unconfident in himself. Like, dude, you're like the best vet guard player in the UK. And then Alex, I'd actually been, he went undefeated and won most sporting, which I was really proud of. Like, the cool thing is I'd basically been coaching him, mentoring. So I'd been testing out that. So I'd been like telling him how to play Intercession the best, telling him to do stuff people wouldn't expect and that would suit him, as well as, because the funny thing, I'd been teaching him about crit ops, and then I was like, I'm so sorry, dude, we're gonna have to go back to the to the old missions. So on the Friday, I played some games at Warhammer World, and I was like, yeah, okay, this is what you have to do, read the mission, do that. So even though he won all his games, he wasn't focused on his tac ops, so that's why he didn't place as high, because he didn't have too many completed tac ops. But he's an amazing dude, and I was so happy and proud that he got undefeated as well as most sporting. But overall, it was a really cool event. I'll post up the top 8 here. I think I have it. But the cool thing, it was like, even though it was a weird event overall, it was still amazing. Like Elliot, the lead games designer, was there answering rules questions. He's really surprised at the Shadow Vault book. That's how Shackle a lot of people were. And what was it? No, the events team were more awesome. Like they were really, upfront about it, open for feedback, and at the end they gave us all a bunch of free dice to take, because they're like, look, we messed up, and as consolation, have 3 packs of dice, and or if you want dog tags, stuff like that, all kill team stuff. So they were giving us each pack of dice, and I'm like, what, £24, 25? So that was really nice. They didn't have to do that. But overall, the event was really cool. Had a lot of fun. Good to finally see the back of the old missions and TAC Ops. So that was fun. Because they had new maps ready as well. And they were just they had to flip everything around because they were going to use their new maps for Crit Ops. So not sad to see the old missions go away. I didn't realize how bad they were until I played them again, because it's like the weird thing, right? The new critical op missions, I think the biggest criticism is it's too easy to score max primaries, right? That's the only criticism. Outside of that, the missions are really balanced and are actually quite rewarding to play. But when I was playing the older missions again, I realized how punishing they are if you don't have a forward deploy or extra movement strats. And they punish you for primary points, because Master the Terminals, you're never going to get 12 primary. And even Domination, played that, and it's if you play that, you're basically maybe going to get 8 on the primary if you're lucky. And that's if you're playing aggressive early. So it was interesting reflection in terms of that. So, that was fun. But overall, it was just nice being with my friends. I think the biggest issue I find personally is I think I've kind of burnt myself out of Kill Team in terms of I was pushing myself quite hard for ITC. So I think I'll do a video on ITC, but basically I finished in the top 5 and the 4th best player in the world according to ITC, and the best non-Spanish player, and at the highest points in the UK and stuff. Technically, because for some reason it counted my points not in the UK for some of them. So I managed to get that goal, and I was chatting to my friends about it, because I was overall I was going, I've won at Warhammer World. That was always a dream. I did that in my second Kill Team tournament at Warhammer World. I won in America, and I got to the final, played in LVO, and I got to the US Open and my ITC placements. And I was thinking about it, there's not really much left for me to do. I've even won a tournament in London now. I would just be playing for ITC points again. And I don't find that too enjoyable. I like testing myself, but if I start looking at events going, oh, this event is not worth enough points for me, I shouldn't play, then that would lead me into a bad mindset. Because I was chatting to one of my friends from America who was kind of in the same boat, and he's like, I'm just going to take this, super casually. Even if I don't get to the US Open final, whatever, I'll just play for fun. And I think I'm going to do that. I'm already planning to run one tournament, and I want to run more. So I think I'm going to focus more on that. I definitely think I need to take some break, some kind of break from competitive Kill Team. Not for months, maybe for a month or 2. Something just to make me relax. Because it's just, I'm overstressing myself out, and I don't want to burn myself out. I'm not at that point. I want to keep my motivation for playing. This is more of a ramble. So, because there's really not much else for me to do. You could argue, oh, you could win the US Opens, but that's not the point of the US Open. The US Open is a celebration for all the people who qualified for it, right? Obviously, it's nice you win, but even if you don't win, you're still going to be on the list of honors for that year. So that's fine. And I was ITC is effectively unobtainable at the moment first, unless I move to Spain. So, and even though I like doing Warhammer holidays, I think I just want to do some proper holidays this year. So, because I don't want to be in a situation where I burn myself out from the game. So, because that's what happened to me with Warhammer Underworlds at one point. I was I've won 3 Grand Clashes, I've won with all the warbands. I've placed all this, I was a play tester. What else is there for me to do? I run tournaments. I'm struggling to find motivation, and I don't want to go down that route, because it personally can lead you down a dark path where you just become this person who only cares about winning. It's like, you know, when they go, what's your power level? It's like, how many ITC points is this tournament worth? Stuff like that. But I hope that ramble didn't make sense. Overall, Savage Hammer, great. Warhammer World, great. Highly recommend both events. I think I'm next going to a Warhammer World narrative event during the week. Then after that, I think I've got like Warhammer Fest, which I need to figure out. I want to go back to painting some kill teams. Still need bat reps to do, but we'll see. But before we go, please remember to like and subscribe as well as comment. Let me know what you thought of this video as a whole. What did you think of the events? Interested to hear your feedback. And remember, I've got Discord. You can check out the episode description below, as well as an affiliate link to Element Games if you want to check that out. And then also, I've got a Patreon. So I will just shout out my patrons. So for my adepts of the crit, I have Samaru, Screech, Sam, Robin, Ninja Lee 83, Nick, Kenzie, John Thomas, Eric, Captain Murder, Daniel, Average Joe 27, Arthur, and then for my veterans of the crit, I have Samja. So thank you so much. Your support really means a lot to me and helps support the channel. But yeah, I'm tired. I am currently building my Soul Shackle. As I see him, I'm like the only UK content creator with Soul Shackle at the moment. Because it came the Friday morning, like an hour, 2 hours before I was going to leave for Warhammer World. So I've got my little drone. I really love the Hand of the Archon. They're so cool. So I'm going to paint up Hand of the Archon first. I need to do a battle report as well with these guys. That might come this week. This is going to be a weird, crazy week for me. But I'll see. I'm like back. I've got like Patreon battle reports I've recorded that I need to post. There's content I need to do. It's catching up. So February's going to be a busy month. But that's it for me. If you watched all my reviews of Soul Shack on the weekend, greatly appreciate it. Love you so much. Hope you understood I couldn't post any images because I wasn't allowed to. So I may do some in-depth guides as a compensationary thing after I've got more games with these guys, and then I can show the rules off properly. But that's enough from me. And remember, no matter how many events and tournaments you go to, there's always a chance to win as long as you can roll a crit.